Access to Democracy is made possible by donations from the following organizations. Thomson Reuters, a global company with expertise and insight to unravel complex situations in the areas of law, tax, compliance, government, and media. Their worldwide network of journalists and editors keep customers up to speed on relevant global events. Crutchfield Dermatology, a full-service treatment center and Medi-Spa in Eagan. Their goal is to help you look good and feel great with beautiful skin. With service built around courtesy, dignity, and respect, Mayo-trained Dr. Charles Crutchfield personally treats each patient and is acknowledged as one of the nation's best physicians. Truestone Financial, with locations in Minnesota and Wisconsin, has proudly served its members since 1939. Truestone engages, educates, and supports its members to ensure they have the tools to empower their financial well-being. Truestone Financial, your neighborhood credit union. Learn more at truestone.org. Edina Eye Physicians and Surgeons, a division of Twin Cities Eye Consultants, has proudly served the Twin Cities for more than 55 years now in 7 convenient locations. Using the most advanced technology combined with human touch, Edina Eye offers comprehensive services and dedicated specialists committed to excellence with innovative procedures and expertise for the most advanced eye care.
Welcome. Access to Democracy back with you again. Alan Miller with you. As the days dwindle down to a precious few, or as the week and years dwindle down to a precious few, as I transition out of this seat and hopefully to bigger and better things, we have with us a favorite guest, a guest who has appeared more times than any other guest. He has been here over 2 decades. And what we want to say first is happy birthday, Senator Jim Carlson.
Thank you. Thank you, Alan.
And welcome back again. Always a learning experience.
Oh, it always is. It's great.
So there's so many topics to talk about at the moment, but I think what all of us want to know is redistricting. We just saw the maps come out from the 5-judge commission, and it's how does that affect you? How does that affect most of us in the state?
Well, you know, as I mentioned before, there are people that are very depressed because they were either aced out of their district, or they may have been paired with another legislator, paired with a legislator that is even in their own party. And then those that managed to escape that pairing and escaped losing their district. I had none of that happen to me. We had 4 maps that were submitted to the courts, and 3 of the 4 had me paired with another Democrat.
Is that true?
I was very happy to be able to have the judges not pair me. So you know, we are cautioned about being too effusive about the districts if we're happy with them. So I'm just going to say you got to check the smile on my face, and that largely reflects how I feel.
We have been for 10 years, we've been District 51.
Yes.
We're no longer District 51. As this becomes effective no matter what, in terms of you individually, we're District 52.
Yes, yes. I used to call it Area 51 just for fun. And so I can't do that anymore. We're transitioning out of that. But the new district took away some of the Burnsville precincts, gave them to Lindsay Port, who is the senator down there. And some of the new precincts that I have, or new areas that I have, is Mendota Heights, and it goes all the way up to the Mississippi River. And then it doesn't change the eastern boundary. I have none of Mendota Heights, and almost all of, none of Imber Grove Heights. I have almost all of Mendota Heights. Senator Matt Klein
and
lives
pretty
in
much
Mendota
all of
Heights.
Eagan also, right?
Pretty much. Well, I actually lost a couple of precincts in Eagan. I had all but one precinct in the past, and that was the one that was north of Lone Oak Road, and I've gotten that back. But then I lost the 2 of them that are to the south of Cliff Road and east of Pilot Knob. So there's one of them that's split there that goes along with that district. And that goes into the same district that has Rosemount and Apple Valley, goes all the way out to Coates. So there'll be some new friends we need to make. And I've told we had a meeting last night, and I told the people from the District 51, I said, you'll always be my constituents forever. So, I'll really miss them. But then I do grab onto some people that I've known before. And, one of the things we do count is the number of school districts we have. And I have a little less of the Burnsville School District and quite a bit more of the 197 West St. Paul District. And now the West St. Paul school, the high school, which is called the Two Rivers School, that's in my district, as is the Viking Lakes area.
Oh, that's interesting.
So yes, that's a new
You have a new
opportunity.
You have a new coach and a new general manager.
Yes, yeah.
And you are now a ranking senator.
I'm the ranking senator on the State Government Finance and Elections Committee. I'm also, we rank in our seniority too, and I believe I'm number 4 in seniority now of the DFL senators in the Senate. So let's say if things work out right and we get a majority this fall, I'll have a gavel. I'll have a committee.
Well, that's a long time in coming.
Yes,
That certainly would
time.
be a welcome addition. Now, there are so many things that are facing this legislature coming up. Let's start with bonding. We have a big state surplus, and as usual, the Republicans say, give it all back to the people. And we have such priorities that we need: infrastructure and things in desperate need of repair and all, childhood education. The Democrats want to slice it up a different way. Where does that sit?
Well, you have to look at bonding separate from budgeting. Bonding is going out and borrowing funds by selling bonds to build things that have a long life to them. We call that infrastructure. We call that the capital investments. And so what you do there is you build things that you're going to be using for a long time. And that might be bridges, it might be university buildings, it might be other things that have a long lifetime, or let's say they are to be lasting for quite some time. Even a roof on a building is something that lasts for a long time. So it's appropriate to bond for that. But now we have a forecasted surplus, and that means that it's a guess. We under-guessed last year.
We've talked about that numerous times.
That's right,
the fact that it is a guess, and
it's a guess.
Sometimes it's a surprise.
And it can go down, and now it's not going down. So it's a guess that's getting worse right now, because we're actually collecting more funds than what was anticipated bipartisanly last year when we signed the budget bills. And what do you do with that extra money? And it's not a matter of let's give it back, because most of it is because of increased economic activity. It's more profits from corporations that pay taxes to the state. It's more income taxes for a lot more people that are now working. Our lowest, we now have very low unemployment. So those people are paying income taxes, which we didn't anticipate. And what those people do is they go out and buy taxable items, which causes a lot more collection of sales taxes. So when you talk about giving it back, no one was expecting this to happen. And now giving it back, who do you give it back to? Do you give it back to the people that have gotten new jobs? Do you give it back to the corporations? Or do you build things and
do you put things that have some permanency to them?
Yes,
that's going to help the state.
But it's using cash instead of bonding is not a bad idea too. And you can use cash for some some infrastructure improvements, maybe that are little shorter term, or maybe road repair, things like that.
Or do you take something like taxes on Social Security income and do away with it, which is manifestly unfair to senior citizens, and I speak with a definite prejudice?
Yeah, well, I get Social Security, and I would like it to not be taxed, but you know what? I wished I would have brought up a handout I have on that. One of the things that people forget is that a lot of people do not get Social Security. Were in jobs where they didn't pay in, like the teachers in Minneapolis, the railroad workers, people like that. This would do nothing for them. So they have to have a pension to keep solvent. Other people, like let's say if you only earn Social Security as a senior, it's not taxed. You don't pay tax because the starting of a tax is above the Social Security that you get. So it's really a tax on your pensions, on your dividends, on your 401k, on all kinds of other things, and even on your income if you continue working. So then you got to look.
There's still a manifest unfairness because Social Security is money coming back that you paid in.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And
you collect that all back in a few years. So it's really not being paid for by you and by your deductions. It's being paid for by the people that are younger than you that are still working.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. And then when you look at the fairness, is it fair for a person who makes, let's say their Social Security might run into $30,000 and they make $10,000 on some dividends or some savings. Now, if they deduct their Social Security, they're in they only have to pay a small amount of tax because they're only a little bit above the basis, and they get back 5.5% of that. But now let's say if you made $250,000 in your pensions and in your 401k and maybe $35,000 in your Social Security, and if you deduct Social Security, you get 9.5% of that off. So the wealthy have a very larger return than the poor people that we want to help, especially the seniors.
Isn't that the way of bureaucracy, really?
It is, but it is a different way to look at it. That that it does help the wealthy at a level far higher than the poor. And there's I think it's about 400,000 people that are in that level that they don't pay any tax, no matter what. So that's 400,000 people that are retired that don't pay tax on any additional money or Social Security. So it's a very small group that it would help, and it helps the very wealthy far more than it helps the poor people.
As I said, that's the way of bureaucracy.
Yeah. But would I like it? Of course I would.
Now, I know one of the things, and I want to talk about some of these other issues that are facing the state, and I listed actually when the legislature started what the papers indicated were the priorities for the legislative session, which is you're already back in session and you'll be in session until what, May?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Third week of May. Yeah, third Tuesday.
So, and I want to get to some of those things, but I know in particular one of the things that really, really resonates with you is how close this country came to losing its democracy on January 6th. And I know in particular that that's a topic that you want to have some say about.
Yes, and that's right. I hope your viewers take that extremely seriously, that we nearly lost the democracy. All it would have taken was to delay the naming of a president, and the former president would have continued to have presidential powers. And the continuing of those presidential powers would have given him the ability to do a lot more executive orders, and you would not have been able to fight him in the courts because he had the Supreme Court on his side.
And
this,
not only that, but with people like General Flynn, he would have called the national emergency or the Insurrection Act or whatever. And actually, it was an insurrection, but with him in power, it would have been a whole different situation.
Yes.
So.
And that's why we've talked a bit about it, that we have to remember that this is just like what happened 99 years ago. 100 years ago, in 1922, Mussolini marched on Rome and overthrew the government. 99 years ago, Hitler had the beer hall putsch and tried to take over the Bavarian government. That was on November 9th of 1922. And he was stopped, he was caught, he was tried, he was convicted for, I think it was subversion or something like that, sentenced to 5 years in prison, but only served 1 year. At the same time, he was dictating Mein Kampf.
And that's right, he wrote Mein Kampf when he was in prison, and then came out in 1933 and overthrew the government.
Yeah, well,
took the government. He didn't overthrow it, but
no,
in effect,
it didn't work to overthrow.
Yeah.
So what he did is he worked with and they got political power to get people into the Bundestag, and he managed to take over using elections and actually passing laws. And then they went wild with passing laws, took away the ability of Jewish people to hold office, took away their citizenship, and now they were non-citizens, and that took all their power away to even fight any of the laws that Hitler was putting forth.
And they also really lowered the boom on people who were homosexual,
Yep.
mentally incompetent.
There was a number of things that they did that were actually very racist and very what they call purifying. And then in 1938, and you remember that November 9th of 1923, November 9th of 1938 was Kristallnacht. And that was...
Oh, I know it well,
yeah,
yes.
that was when they actually overtook and damaged Jewish businesses throughout Germany. So November 9th is a day that
I've taught about that
Yeah.
in my Holocaust genocide class. And,
Yep. There are 5 incidents that happened on November 9th. And of course the final one was the tearing down of the wall in 1989.
Now the thing is with the danger of January 6th, the fact of the matter is that there are hundreds of groups still out there. They may be small, they may not as well be organized as the Oath Keepers, but they are out there. And what January 6th, what Donald Trump did was bring all these things to the surface.
Yes.
And if he could be an anarchist or an authoritarian leader, I got it out, he would do so at all costs. And as evidence is coming out from the January 6th committee right now, we see more and more that he would have gone to any lengths to accomplish this and tried.
And I'm going to say this, though, that Donald Trump didn't think of all these things.
No, that's
there
no
were
question.
There were some people behind it, just like there were with Hitler. There were some industrialists that saw this guy and they propped him up, and they didn't expect him to take such charge. And then they actually tried to assassinate him afterward. Mm-hmm. But the same thing, not the same thing exactly, but let's just say, who brought these ideas to Donald Trump? Who was the one that came up with some of this and presented the business of not certifying the election, of trying to get alternative
we have
electors?
People like Eastman, an attorney, Rudy Giuliani. Certainly General Flynn has to be in that group.
Yes.
Some very dangerous people, several of whom were pardoned by Trump. Trump focuses on Trump.
Yes.
He gravitates only around himself and what will benefit himself. He is not an intellect. I guarantee you, if you asked him what different sections of the Constitution have, or the Bill of Rights, that he would be completely unable to answer, because he took no interest in it. He took interest in helping Trump himself and his family, who I believe he would throw to the wolves to save himself also.
Oh, yes, yeah. Well, you know, the old rumor was that he wanted to have Trump as the name that lived forever. So he, you know, I mean, he obviously worships his own name. That's why he names all of his properties with his name. He, you know, he'll even say it's the Trump vaccine.
Even though they really changed the name to Trump from Drumpf, the German, the original German name that his father changed. It's a frightening. I just never thought at this age that I would have harbored fears that this democracy, that this everything that this country stands for, could be threatened by the likes of people like that, and they're still out there.
They're still out there.
And the Republican Party has moved to the right to such a frightening degree that it really, you know, when they banish somebody like Liz Cheney, who I don't philosophically agree with on much, but has shown that she's a woman of courage who cares about the Constitution. These people don't care about the Constitution. They don't care about what this nation has become, the shining light for the rest of the world.
Yeah. Well, that just tells us what our job is here, and our job is to make sure that we understand what happened and we explain what happened to everybody that we know. And we watch for all of the little things that can happen, like between now and the next election. And I can tell you, I'm seeing lots of them. Being on the elections committee, we're seeing things that are brought in that are, you know, they might seem like a nice idea or a good idea or a secure idea, but they have a wicked side to them. And we just had a bill brought in on Wednesday where this group called the Center of the American Experiment has been very pro voter suppression. And the only person that came in and testified for a bill called, we call it the watermark bill, and that's where they would they would have ballots printed with watermarks on them, and when mail-in ballots or absentee ballots would come in, they would pull them out of the envelope, and if they didn't have a watermark on them, they would throw them. They would be discarded. Now, that has no connection to whether that ballot was duly accepted by the people who are authorized to accept them, and also that it was duly voted on by a voter. It's just now we find this nonsensical way to throw them in the trash.
And the threats against election commissioners, election officials, election judges, and right down the line, all three of those have faced, even our own Secretary of State faced threats. And,
we all have. We all have. You know, one of the things that I wanted to mention too is that last year there was an initiative to put into a database all election workers, the precinct judges, everyone that worked on an election. And of course, what happens is that you try to pick people from both sides of the aisle to work in precincts, and they keep watch over each other. And they get to know each other, and it's really a good thing.
And they have friendships that develop over years
but now,
to run an honest election.
Yes, but now what they wanted to do was put these people's names into a database so that you could pull them out. You could find out what party they belong to. You could find out their home address. You could find out their precinct that they worked in. You could find out how they got into that job. And I said in the committee that this is a perfect way to set people up for harassment. And
certainly is.
the other side said, oh, no, they wouldn't do that. But now, have you seen all the harassment that's happened to election workers? You know, there have been people that have had to be evacuated from their homes because of it. And all they were was election workers. So
volunteers
yes.
in many cases.
In many cases, they're at both sides of the aisle, too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So these are the kinds of things that we're trying to be real sensitive to. And, you know, we'll fight like heck to prevent them from ever getting into a bill. So it's, but, you know, like we talked about before, there are omnibus bills that have good things in them and bad things in them. And how bad do they have to get before I vote against them?
You can't line
the governor
line item veto?
No, you can't, not policy. No, you can only do that with finance, and it has to be individualized. Yeah.
Well,
so
that's something also important to know.
Yeah, yeah.
In the couple of minutes that we have left, what would you say is the most important, other than the bonding, and most important item that's facing the legislature in this year of pandemic and COVID and really?
Well, it's hard to think of something that just has its head and shoulders above everything else. We need to get people vaccinated because there are more variants coming. And what that's doing is it's really threatening our healthcare system greatly. Now, it's dropped off a lot, but there isn't anything that says that there's a new, like a BA and a BB variant that's coming, and they're getting weaker as they go. But nonetheless, we should still get vaccinated so that we don't have people that are being the incubators of more variants. We would have been off of masks long ago had we gotten as many people vaccinated as they have in most European countries.
Even though 2/3 of the state is vaccinated, only 1/3 of the state is boosted. And it's really important that people get that booster shot as well as the 2 shots. And there's probably a 4th shot that's going to be coming down the pike.
Quite likely.
And the fact of the matter is, get it, if not for yourself, for your neighbors, for your friends, for your family, certainly.
Yeah. This is going to deteriorate to an annual shot.
Yeah. I think so.
Like regular flu. It will deteriorate to that. And, the unfortunate part of it is that this one, at this stage yet, is very, it's fatal for some people. Omicron is not as fatal, but it still can be.
They just boomed out the closer.
Did we get the music for the awards?
It almost blew us out of the arena here, but Senator Jim Carlson, thank you so much. And
Thank you,
we're going to
Alan.
have to continue this.
Yes, another hour.